This video brought to you by Prehistoric Scenes at prehistoricscenes.net. Recently, I had posted on my Prehistoric Scenes Facebook group and the Aurora Prehistoric Scenes Society Facebook group, looking for people to be interviewed to talk about prehistoric scenes. And I got 4 people who were just an absolute pleasure to interview. And that was Carrie Hamburg, Chuck Herndon, Ron DeVos, and Bill Voice. Carrie and Chuck are in the United States, Ron is in the Netherlands, and Bill is in the UK. And it was just a pleasure. So without any further ado, let's look at the interviews.
Oh, I was 5 years old, and I remember being at Sears on the second floor, and they had a small toy department, and they had a display case, and it had some of the early prehistoric scenes. So I got the flying reptile. So that was my very first kit at 5 years old, and I like dinosaurs, and so my parents bought it, and then I started begging them for every other one after that.
I was trying to remember that actually. I know as a child, I was always fascinated. Like first or second grade, I found out about dinosaurs in the elementary school and hit the library up and got every book, the Lifetime series, that you used to have. And my parents were always encouraging, and I like to build models. My dad was big into models as a kid, and he got me into tried doing cars, and then he got figures. And I think the first thing he ever bought me was like the old Aurora Batman hanging from the limb, the kit that came out years ago.
Oh, cool.
But they knew I loved dinosaurs, and I can't remember if it was for birthday or for Christmas that they bought a kit. And for the life of me, I'm trying to remember what was my first kit. And I can't honestly remember which one it started off. I want to say it was actually like the tar pit or something like that.
Yeah.
That I first got, or the saber-toothed tiger. But anyway, I had no idea that they even had kits like that. That was all new to me.
Yeah.
And then once I found out about it and was looking at the little pamphlets that come with it and was reading about it, I was addicted, and I had to have them all.
Yeah.
And saved up my money, my allowance from polishing shoes and washing cars and everything, and was buying it every time they came out with a new kit. I had to get it.
Yeah.
I remember one of the last Christmases when they were still doing it, when they finally came out with that monstrous T-Rex.
Yeah.
And I remember getting that as a Christmas present.
Uh-huh.
And the only thing I can remember was to complete the collection, I wanted the woolly mammoth. And nobody ever had the woolly mammoth around here.
Oh, no.
And I actually, crazy kid, I got in touch with one of the local news stations that had one of those consumer reporter guys that helped people with problems, figure things out. And on a lark, and I must have been 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And wrote to him, told him what I was trying to do. And danged if the local Milton Bradley toy store didn't have one. It was in Atlanta, but they had a branch in my town, and they shipped it and everything. And I went in and bought it there. And it was completed my collection.
Yeah. Like most Aurora model kits, there was very limited availability in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Most of those kits were initially sold on open outdoor marketplaces, and that's when I first got acquainted with these models, because my parents went to that market every Saturday.
Yeah.
That's when I first saw them, and I was sort of hooked immediately. And it was near my birthday, so on my birthday, my 8th or 9th year, they bought me, I think, the spiked dinosaur first.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got that from and I was very happy with that, and very interested in the rest of the series.
Yeah.
But like I said, there were not they were not so easily available.
Yeah.
So I had to do some search, and since I was only 8 or 9 years old, I didn't have much possibilities for going out on my own to collect these items. So I think I got 5 or 6 of the kits initially in the 1972, 73, 74
Yeah.
period. But I was still much interested in the rest of the series. But by then they were out of stock on the markets.
Mm.
And later on, and I think that's about between 1975, 1980, they became sort of available in toy shops,
Yeah.
but I still couldn't collect them all. Actually, I only recently, like a year or two ago, uh, got to get my collection complete, and that's mostly with reissues
Yeah.
and something from eBay and things like the monogram and what have you.
Yeah.
I got some guy in the United States who makes recasts of the bases,
Yeah.
uh, and I bought some bases there. And there was a sale in one of the toy shops which got bankrupt like 5 or 6 years ago, from which I got 2 or 3 monogram reissues.
Oh, nice.
So in a sense, I don't have a complete series. Well, it's complete in all models, but it's not all
Right.
the original thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That is.
so that's how I how I came to collect the total actually.
Well, I kind of got into prehistoric scenes through Lindbergh pyro
Yeah.
because my dad used to build the Lindbergh pyro dinosaurs when I was very little in the 1960s.
Yeah.
And I had this collection on top of the pelmet in my room. And then I think it was my 7th birthday, and there was a toy shop that had opened up in town called Youngsters, which I think was an American chain. It was part of an American chain. It had come to Britain, and it
Mhm.
was the first time I'd seen Aurora model kits.
Yeah.
Now, British model kits like Airfix and to an extent Japanese model kits, they're very technically very good, but they're very sort of contained. So if you bought an Airfix dinosaur, for instance, it's a lovely little dinosaur, but there's no excitement with it. It's very technical and very sort of museum style. And British kits are obsessed with education, whereas with American kits, like Aurora with their monsters and their glow in the dark and their dinosaurs, they really appeal to me because they kind of. I went to buy the first one I went to buy was a flying reptile, which was when I got it home, it was missing a piece. So
Mhm.
we took it back and they'd run out of flying reptiles. So I ended up with the saber-toothed tiger. So when I got it back and I found all these limbs and all this positioning, it just like, I thought this is wild. And I got the map with the sort of promo on it showing me the Cro-Magnon man and the cave and all of that. And that just made me think, oh, this is great. And there was a map where they all fit together. Whereas with the pyro dinosaurs, some of them didn't have bases. And the bases that were there were very minimal.
Yeah.
And I found this modular terrain base concept absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So that was my first, it was a birthday present basically. That was my first thing. And then I had to have the Allosaurus because all the limbs and the moving tail, I just thought I've got to have that. And I think it was the Cro-Magnon man on the original box where he's lifting a stone to drop on it. Uh, and I looked, and in the original cave box, you could see the Allosaurus through the aperture of the cave.
Yeah.
That really, I wanted that, and I think I'd just seen at the cinema Valley of the Guanji, and that whole Harryhausen thing fed into it. So
Yeah.
that's my first experience of it. It was delightful.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really was.
Oh, immediately I think of the iconic logo. I think of the Aurora, the artwork, the dinosaur kits and mammals. It's very emblematic in my mind of my childhood. In
Yeah.
memory, well, I say that I'm still building them, John. I just bought that caveman a couple of weeks ago, or the cave bear.
I don't know. I just remember, my childhood. I mean, that hit me in my prime. That was right when I was really getting into models, and there all the other kids are doing their tanks and planes and all that, and I'm over here building little Triceratops kits. And so, actually, it wasn't that little though; it was pretty big.
Oh yeah.
And I remember having my cousin, who's about my same age, and he came over one summer, and he had gotten a kit too, and we sat there at a table in the basement putting them together. So I just remember it finally, like childhood things, doing stuff like that. They looked horrible when I was done with them. I mean, terrible painter. Back then, all you had was brush and bottles, and you painted everything. So,
and Tesco's enamel.
Oh yes, that
Oh
wonderful
God.
enamel paint.
As a kid, I found it very much fun to build them and to paint them in a kid's kind of way. Um, yeah, I'm sorry now that I did it that way, but it was playing and
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
So it was good, and I have to actually make time to how do you call that? To deep paint them to get the paint off and do it all over again.
Mhm.
And I have to look for a few spare parts because some of the parts are broken.
Yeah.
For example, the tail of the little dinosaur from the jungle swamp is broken off. Still got it somewhere, but I have to repair that and all those kinds of things. Um, what I also find is that they're not very authentic uh, in a scientific sort of way, but they have some attitude.
Yeah.
I think is very nice, and which you don't see actually in other brands. They're more like biological authentic.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think the whole aura of the original models is much more fun, interesting to me at least
Yeah.
than an authentic model. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is with the Lindbergh and the Tamiya and the Airfix, they're standalone little dinosaurs. And even though the new Tamiya series has bases which are kind of like Aurora, for me the excitement came with the everything you got with it. So you've got a modular terrain base. You usually have at least two objects. It might be a rock, it might be a tree. With the Neanderthal man, you got this whole sort of itinerary of like this bag, with the duck around his shoulders and the club and everything. And it was the fact that it was clearly there to stimulate your imagination. It wasn't just there as an informative model like the Airfix and to an extent the Lindbergh, even though they're very old-fashioned. They were there. They were there specifically for a kid to stimulate their play or at least their imagination. And I can't help thinking that a lot of people that went on to become comic book artists and stuff like that would have found their inspiration in the not just the packaging, but the extras like the fold out instructions and they also showed you what else you could get. It was not just a standalone thing. So for me, it's that absolute sort of package of imagination that makes them stand out. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. The make scene booklet, and so for me, it was the integration like that and the excitement. And to be fair to Aurora, you did get what was on the box.
Yeah.
You did get what was on the box. It might be exciting because it was painted, but if you look at the thing like the tar pit, you got that. And if you look at the jungle swamp with all that stuff, I looked at the box because the box of the swamp isn't that big, and I used to think, how did they get all that in a box? And when I first opened it, I was like pulling little bits out and thinking, oh, there's a snake, there's a Compsognathus, there's an Archaeopteryx. And I look in a tree and look at those big fronds, and to me, that kit to me, a lot of people malign that kit because I think it's slightly smaller really than it should be. But what you got in that kit was, and I
Yeah,
just thought that the people have thought about you could use these bits anywhere on the layout.
yeah,
And it was a bit like buying extra bombs for your Lancaster or something, isn't it? It's
yeah.
like that. And it was the fully integrated view, and also the thing that obviously appeals to me is I knew even at that age that cavemen and dinosaurs didn't exist together,
Right.
but it doesn't stop you wanting it to be, does
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah.
When you watch A Million Years BC, that
Uh-huh.
movie would be rubbish without the dinosaurs, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and I built a lot of them too. The main thing was the bases that you could put them together to make a giant layout like a puzzle.
Hmm.
And some of them had parts like the Allosaurus and the Ankylosaurus had like a footprint that went across both sets of bases. So
Yeah.
you wanted to have all of them, which was marketing genius, but you could build a scene and then some of them fit in different places. So you could customize and rearrange. So it was just a lot of good play and imaginative fun.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just you glue it all together, stick it on the shelf, and never touch it again. So it had arms and legs that had different poses, so you could swap them out. They would come apart. So the Cro-Magnon man and woman were always getting bitten in half, and I'd have the legs sticking out of the Allosaurus, like they were swallowing them down. And so you could do fun things with them that my other model kits you couldn't do because it was glued together and you didn't want to break it.
Yeah, I guess it had the unique quality of not being a static model. Like if you bought, you know, who else did it? Like at my age, it was companies like Limburg,
Yeah.
and stuff like that were about the only other kits that were available out there. But they were just static,
Yeah.
kits. And these with the articulating joints and movement and stuff like that, it gave you a little, something. Of course, they were great at that age to get out and play with.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just to be able to articulate was fascinating. Just because then again, I was interested in the engineering portions of it. Was like, oh look, this is how these come together, and the tail rotates around this axis, and so it was fascinating from a couple of standpoints.
Yeah.
But like I said, more than just a plain static model kit per se, and not really a rubber toy.
Yeah.
But it filled a void, I guess. Like you built it, you could play with it, you could do what you wanted to with it, and they were big. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
They weren't little rinky dink,
Yeah.
things that you hold it in the palm of your hand. That's not enjoyable when you're a kid.
No. No. So it had some life to it.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not very familiar with other brands because my interest is in the Aurora brand, of course. What I think is a fair distinction from the rest is the interconnecting bases, which is, although I never have found a way to display them all together because it's such a large area which you have to cover.
Yeah.
But I very much like that. Um, and I think, the scale in which you build, like the 1:13 scale, is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
That you have like a proper robust model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, some are sort of out of range, like the T-Rex is gigantic, I think, but still, it's very nice to have that. And I think other brands never go to that scale,
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware.
Yes.
I really appreciate the Airfix Hella ones that I think, and they did. I think was it AMT or AMC that did them in the United States? I think you're working on the Triceratops at the moment,
Yeah.
and yeah, was it that because Hella and Airfix released those molds over here,
Yeah.
and I liked them because scale wise they were very, very similar. They were more integrated, not quite, but better.
Yeah.
And I loved the surface textures on them. I thought they were really good, and I felt they were great. I liked the second series of the Tamiya ones, which are very museum quality. The
Yeah.
Tamiya ones, series two of the Tamiya, the Brachiosaurus and the Parasaurolophus, and all of those things, they were good, and they even had the interlocking bases and stuff like that. But they still didn't achieve the same sense of excitement that Aurora did. And I think to an extent, when I think of the Aurora, I think of the colours, the oranges and the greens, and I think my Triceratops was a silver grey,
Yeah.
and my original Dimetrodon was like a rich brown, almost iridescent gold.
Yeah.
My Ankylosaurus was a deep orange, almost a brown.
Yeah.
And my original cave was bright yellow, and then I bought a second cave to add to it years later, which turned out to be black for some reason. I don't know why. The cave bear was black, and each and the giant bird was this beautiful metallic blue,
Yeah.
and I just see them as colourful and uh, accessible. So if you're a kid and you haven't got that much skill, you can just clip them together on the day and play with them.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. And you knew which bits went in each box at the end of the day because they were the same colour. Whereas Airfix were all grey.
Right.
In England, they were just pattern mid grey that every kit was.
Yeah.
The Tamiya ones had a little bit of colour in it, but the colour on the Tamiya ones was almost like camouflage. It was almost like they were using the colours from their tank kits. You know what I mean? Whereas the Aurora had this distinct yellowness or orange, the flying reptile orange, for instance. Whenever I see that color, people say, "What color is that?" I say, "That's reptile orange." It probably isn't, but that's what I call it because of
Yeah.
that. And I think the playability of it, that you're supposed to handle these things because they're chunky and they're structured. They're impact resistant. Whereas if you look at a lot of other kits, like the Lindbergh ones, you drop it, they break.
Yeah.
Whereas the Aurora ones, if you drop it, the legs will untwist and drop off, and then you just clip them back in. I don't. I think you can probably play with them for a really good amount of time.
Yeah.
I personally did play with them, and I had a box room with a big box over the stairs, and I made that into I made it into a lost world, and I even had like a bay with and I think I'd watched The Land That Time Forgot, so I even bought a submarine to go into the bay and some little 132 figures, which were tiny, tiny, but they seem to scale up to the size of the dinosaurs in the film.
Right.
So, I mean, for me, it just filled that corner of my room, and it just brought me great joy. And I went on.
So, big thanks to Carrie, Chuck, Ron, and Bill for participating in this little adventure. It was just so much fun to talk to them about prehistoric scenes, and they were just absolutely fantastic. So, guys, thanks. And stick around, there will be more adventures to come.